Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raad Life. Today, I have a special guest, Ms. Lucy Dunn, CEO, Executive Director at the Orange County Business Council. Lucy and I have been kind of communicating back and forth on a couple of issues going on in Orange County, specifically as a result of this COVID. So I wanted to take an opportunity to invite her on the show, and she was gracious enough to say yes. So without further ado, I want to bring her on, and let's talk about Lucy and what she's doing with the Orange County Business Council. Lucy, are you there? Hi.
I am. How are you, Raad?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for saying yes to being on the show. I really appreciate it. And I was just saying that you and I have been kind of like bouncing back and forth on some stuff after COVID started, because there's a lot of stuff going on. People are kind of like confused. You know, once that initial shock was over, people are looking for sources for information, places that they can trust, that are giving them sustainable solutions versus just quick fixes that, you know, what do I do tomorrow? Then I've done this today. And so there's a lot of stuff that you and I have been kind of crossing paths on. And I wanted to bring you on, first of all, find out, how did you get to be at the Orange County Business Council? Because you've been there, gosh, since 2005, I think.
It's my 15th year. I'm November.
Happy anniversary.
1st. Thank you. I'll be celebrating the start of the 16th. Yeah, it's interesting too, because you would never have predicted my career path. I'm kind of a local girl. Even though I was born in New Jersey and I lived in Maryland, Virginia, New York, and Pennsylvania for very short periods of time. My dad was in the defense industry, so he followed the defense industry contracts back and forth. But kindergarten, City of Orange, Santa Ana schools, Garden Grove Unified School District, and ultimately I ended up my junior year in high school at Mission Viejo High School.
Wow,
first graduating class. And all 4 years through. And my dad was going back to the East Coast and wanted me to drive across country with him with my 5 younger brothers and sisters. And I said, Dad, really, can't I finish school in one place? I'd been to 18 different schools in 18 years of schooling. And so lived with some friends in the city of Orange and commuted for 2 years to Mission Viejo to finish high school.
That's a commute, especially back then.
Back then, and it was completely illegal, but who knew, you know?
Yeah.
So this is what we did back then. And so finished high school. I needed a job. I was caring for some people's kids. I am not silver spoon by any means. And I had to, in fact, I didn't even really want to go to college. Nobody in my family went to college, but my guidance counselors yelled at me and said, you need to do this. So Cal State Fullerton, frankly, had an evening program. And then I got to work at the same time in my first job as a legal secretary trainee at age 19,
wow,
typing 20 words a minute in a law office, which is the start of where my interest in law began. Because back then, the lawyers, 2-man firm, and they started giving me more than legal work really early. And I was doing paralegal work before it was cool to be a paralegal. Ended up starting my own paralegal practice. And then someone kicked me in the behind and said, go to law school. So law school in the evenings, working during the day at night, literally passed the bar, turned the shingle on the door from paralegal to lawyer. First court appearance was the day after I got sworn in, and then practiced law for about the first third of my life.
So when did you start your paralegal practice? I mean, that's like,
oh my gosh,
young entrepreneurship. I mean, 101, right? I mean,
oh yeah, this was back in the 70s and early 80s. Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
And then you got your degree and you turned it into being a law firm.
Right. Well, I had my own law practice by myself, solo practitioner for a while, but most of my clients were lawyers because they were giving me all of their overflow work. And so I was fortunately in the black very early on.
Right.
And
well, you paid your dues. You knew them. You had been in those circles. And how long did you do that for?
Let's see. I guess I got picked up. A home building company called me, a friend of mine. By now, I'm married. I have 2 babies at home. I'm working 16-hour days. And a home builder called and said, one of his general counsel called and said, you know, you should come and work for me because you know, you can get a 9-to-5 job and a company car. Remember those gigantic console cell phone, car
Oh yeah.
phones. Oh my gosh, I was promised one of those. It was the coolest thing. And so,
They came in a separate bag at one
oh my
point
God,
too, right?
yes, they filled your trunk, they filled your middle seat. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really fun. And it was a 3-week vacation. And I thought, well, gosh, now I can, actually be home in time for dinner.
Right.
And so ended up, it was interesting, Rad, because I didn't know anything about the home building industry
Mm.
and yet took this position. They hired me because I'd been doing all the personal legal work of the executives, their wills
Oh,
and
got it.
divorces. So they all knew me. They just knew they had to train me. So baby lawyer in real estate development, soon, and their company's largest project was a little 2,000 acre project in Huntington Beach called Bolsa Chica.
Oh yeah.
And so I did a lot of legal work for a while. And my claim to fame, I guess early on, was that I had really, unlike some folks in the company, I was sort of the new face.
Yeah.
So I got to develop a good relationship with the environmental community in town.
Yeah.
And we worked very closely. I listened deeply to their issues, settled 10 years of litigation,
Well,
and moved forward. And then eventually left the law practice side of real estate behind when the company decided to put me in project management of the project and went into the business side. So I spent 17 years of my life in real estate development on
mhm.
everything from endangered species to wetlands restoration to school boards, all the way to the White House. Bolsa Chica was such a huge project.
Right.
Liquefaction, oil operations,
Right.
whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, you had coastal. I mean that's really deep into the pool,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of quick learning that you have to do.
Oh yeah.
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 And
And up and back to the Coastal Commission. Gosh, if we did it once, we did it 8 times,
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, very
yeah.
familiar with that.
How long did that project take overall?
Well, overall, probably 35 years,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
those things to just take on forever,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I mean, way to cut your teeth on something like that, right? You come
Yeah,
out of that thing very seasoned, and
exactly.
to your point, gave you the opportunity to develop that rapport and relationships across multiple disciplines that were involved in a project of that scale.
And
Wow.
when it came time to actually the environmental building side was a great balancing act.
Mhm.
And so finally wetlands are going to be restored. We've got funding lined up, a new tidal inlet being built, endangered species saved, and homes being built. And the
Yeah.
home building side actually is sort of the easy side. I did the
Mhm.
land entitlement, the getting the permit side. And so it was then Governor Schwarzenegger called and said, I'd like you to consider being state housing director
Mhm.
and work in Sacramento. And I'd never been in government. I'd never worked on that side of the table. I was always the permit applicant, right? It
Mhm.
was my 20-year-old son who said, Mom, you have gifts, you have a duty to share, and you're bored and you need a new challenge. And so go take this job. And I looked at him like, wow, how did you learn the parable of the talents?
At that age,
I
like,
know all that catechism, what, right? So I ended up saying yes to the governor, and it was the most amazing time, Rad. I spent 2 years in Sacramento, and I had a good economy, and I had money in the bank at
right,
housing. And so we got out funding for 72,000 affordable housing units, shelter spaces, farm worker housing, homeless spaces, and it was awesome. And I got to see things from a government perspective.
right, which you didn't have
I'd never had
an
that
ability to see
before.
before, right?
And I've still developed great friendships. So OCBC's came knocking at my door when I was HCD director, and they said, we think you should think about this. And I had always been interested in the building side, but I'd never been in the nonprofit side.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, this is interesting. Housing was their big issue. Infrastructure, check.
Yeah,
Education, don't know anything about, but
right,
willing to learn. And so I decided to take the leap and come back home. And it kind of worked out well because at the time my husband was ill and my dad was ill ultimately. And so it's sort of, my sons were now in college, and it was good for me to be back home, and didn't expect to stay this long. Frankly, I expected this to be a couple of year gig, but my world opened up, Rad.
right,
I got to work on many different issues, finance and tech and artificial intelligence and cybersecurity.
right.
So it's
Well, we're an amazing center. I
yeah.
mean, the stuff that takes place in Orange County is pretty amazing, and the organization. I mean, I was actually a stand when I was doing background before the show. It's been around for 125 years. I mean, this is it's not a yesterday or 2000 or 2005. I mean, it's amazing. So give a little bit of background just about as what the organization does, because I think there's so many. I jokingly say that in Orange County, between every nonprofit and nonprofit is a nonprofit, right? But there's certain key players in this, and they're really like you're saying, OCBC gets engaged across multiple disciplines, gets involved in a lot of stuff, right? And that's what probably has been very exciting for you, because not any one day is the same as the other, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can plan a day from top to bottom, and then at the end of the day, with a nice glass of wine, say, what happened to that plan? Because
Yeah.
when you're dealing with member issues or with policy issues, or in Sacramento, Washington, D.C., your day changes, as the crisis du jour happens. And in fact, that's one of OCBC's great strengths is we're there as a quiet place to come to discuss crisis issues. We were there for the county bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have media. We don't have Brown Act issues. You come quietly. You can discuss harebrained things in our conference room,
Right.
and we can develop good plans to keep Orange County strong and vibrant. We were there pushing at the very, very beginning for Measure M. We needed funding for our transportation systems. It was your OCBC that was there. This was before my time.
Yeah.
And now I think on COVID and your great work, certainly highlighting the importance of masks. We've been there when you cannot bifurcate good health and good business. You cannot bifurcate.
That was like very interesting, because most people, I don't think, connected the dots. I don't think most people saw the connection between health and business. Right. They actually saw it as, probably even some still see it as, a competing interest. Like that basically these, and it reminds me, what it reminds me of, Lucy, is reminds me in my field where you're dealing with ADA. And people approach ADA as being a hindrance and a problem, and we're going to fight against it, and I'm going to drag my feet to do it. And I've always said that it's almost foolish to do that, because at the very least, in communities that are multi-generational, that have different capabilities and abilities, people are not one size fits all. If you are a business that actually embraces ADA as a starting point, and you develop it into a universally applicable environment, you are actually now in better position to appeal to a wider audience, to a wider marketplace. Like there's actually different ways to look at this that are not your immediate knee-jerk reaction. And I think saw parallels with COVID, with the mask policies, and there's still cities, unfortunately the one I'm in here, where they're not mandating it. And it's sad, because in one breath you're saying you're pro-business, but then in another breath you're saying, I'm not going to basically put in place the measures that are going to protect those businesses and allow them to
stay
prosper.
open.
I mean,
right.
not only to thrive, but to survive first.
Exactly.
In this situation, right? So
exactly. And I love your ADA stuff too, because I dealt with that as a housing director, where I was trying to get builders to think about people staying in their houses longer than just the day that they bought them, but making sure that front door was wide enough to fit through a wheelchair, and that at least one bathroom was accessible. Right. But, the interesting thing, builders that were building for the buyers didn't want to be reminded that they were getting old.
I got certified. Absolutely. I got certified aging in place at 2008. Now I had, at that point, since 94, had been doing ADA compliancy on large, huge projects, for hotel projects for W18G and Hirsch-Bedner and so forth, all over the world. And so here it was, I'm taking this thing, which is really residential focused, aging in place. And I got certified in 2008. At that time, in 2008, I had to go to Chicago, Lucy, to get the certification, because the classes were not offered through the building industry here in sequence, right? I would have had to wait 6 months to get all my classes under my belt. I don't think it has changed much, by the way, right? Yeah. And then until about maybe 2 years ago, okay, nobody wanted to talk about it. And so in the course between 2008 and 2018, what I realized is the way to actually sell it was not to sell it as a modification to a home that allowed for aging. What I tried to start doing is actually talking about it as a financial investment, because people were living in their homes longer, they were healthier, they didn't want to stay, and then we had the economic downturn. And if you followed the normal thing to do, which real estate industry tells you, is you're supposed to scale down at a certain age, move to another location, right? You would have taken a bath on your home that you had bought 30 years ago and basically was almost paid off. And you would have probably not been able to get into something if you did that. So you were staying in your home. You were staying in a familiar neighborhood. You were staying around people that you knew.
Exactly.
And you were appreciating in your property over the duration of time. So it made perfect financial sense, as this being your primary asset, to approach it differently. So again, pivoting and thinking about things differently, right? And it's nice to have people that actually champion that, like you have done with this thing where you're connecting health, good health, to
Yes.
I gotta put the mask up. Sorry. Okay. Good health is good business, because it really is. But what is it?
And my tailor-made mask is right here. It's perfect.
Tailor-made face mask. There you go.
Tailor-made face masks. Hashtag tailor-made face mask.
You're so
My
cute.
OCBC mask is, we're passing these out to all of my board members. So it's very stylish, as you can see.
Yes. Thank you for letting me basically take care of that for you. It was
Absolutely.
really
We
fun
love
to
it.
do.
I love it. They're just-
And yeah, no, and I don't think we have much of that fabric. So Lucy's got a unique face mask. I don't think you guys have to pick another fabric now.
I know. I like something wild and crazy. Look at this, folks. That's gorgeous.
Well, I remember our conversation about I need something red, and I'm like, okay, how about this one?
That's right.
So what is it that's so difficult for people? Is it just what we know and how we've done something for 20 years and 30 years, and I'm kind of resistant, and you're asking me to change in the time of duress and strain? I mean, what is it that causes people to not understand something as simple as good health is good business?
Yeah, a lot of it, I think, Raad, I'm very, you and I are good advocates for this, and we try to use reason and kindness. And I think there needs to also be compassion here, because a lot of what we're experiencing, no one has ever experienced before in recent history, right?
It's my first pandemic. How about you?
My first pandemic. And there are mistakes that are being made. There's no question about it. And there's lessons being learned. But one of the hardest things is, remember, not that long ago, 132 days ago, we had just a rip-roaring economy. People were thriving, working, and right now we're going through stages of grief. And we have to be kind and compassionate to people that they want their old life back,
right,
and they're probably not going to get it back for a while. And so I think that's part of it. The second thing is equating in the middle of election season, which is crazy making.
Yeah, of course.
Equating masks and health as if it's a political issue. That is baffling to me, but it's being used.
Yeah, weaponizing the issue and politicizing it is just, that's a horrible habit that we've gotten into.
Right.
Honestly, it allows us to, it makes it almost impossible to reach across or to talk to one another versus against each other, or at each other. It is really, really a bad habit. And it's not the first time we've done it. It's just, it's really amplified. COVID, it's an interesting thing for me, because I'm looking at this. I mean, I've been remotely working for over 20 years, right? So remote working was never an issue, right? Using technology was never an issue, but I got to be honest, until this happened, I was using Zoom as another form of telephone. I mean, it wasn't really like we're really utilizing it for its full potential like we're doing right now. So it's interesting when you think about and people, like you said, they want their old normal, want the way it was. I honestly, personally believe that we're never going back to that. And I think the benefits of what we are experiencing accidentally, if you will, right now, such as, we talk about distance learning, and we talk about distance learning as being kind of a negative thing, but we were going in that direction to begin with.
Correct.
All that this COVID did was amplify and expedite a lot of things.
Or telehealth, from the standpoint of
telehealth.
Folks do want to see their doctor, and they're starting to go back as they feel more comfortable. But even Kaiser Permanente says, 60% of appointments can still be done via Zoom.
So why wouldn't you?
Why would you go and risk being infected sitting in a waiting room where you might not need to be? So, and then telecommuting, right?
Yeah.
You've been at home. I am enjoying open freeways and being able to go where I want to go when I need to go, because I've been able to spend a few days not having to travel to get to my in on-air meeting with you, Raad.
You said it earlier, like where when you switch from basically working 16 hours a day to having a little more balance in your life, right?
Right.
A lot of people that were not in a position where they work for themselves and they kind of like they enjoyed and maybe build their company around a flexibility model, they all of a sudden now were put in a situation where they were going to be furloughed, or they're going to work from home, or a combination of, or be out of work. So they immediately switched. I mean, the speed by which we adjusted in March was like mind spinning for me,
Yeah.
right? As a whole. So and I was walking around in March saying, well, if it took us this quickly to take care of something, why does it usually take us so long to take care of something, right? Like we have the ability to do this. Right. And I think companies are going to look and say, okay, I got 300 employees. I really don't need a facility to house 300 employees anymore. A lot of my people that are not basically on the production line, or that are in, on the assembly line, or on some production capabilities that we have to have them in a cohesive environment, they can work remotely. I don't have to pick up that tab for real estate. I mean, the impact on commercial real estate was already going bad, right? Now we're looking at people going, well, I don't need that 3,000 square feet. I can do with 1,000.
I had one bank president say to me that he had just leased 3 floors and now realizes he only needs 1.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. On the other hand, people do like to be where the people are.
Right.
So I do see us getting back together, and we do like to see, there's things that on Zoom you can't read body language quite as well.
Sure.
And we do want to, we want to, this can be kind of exhausting for people who are introverts, to constantly stay this focused, right? But at the same time, even if we did this once a week,
right,
we could make systemic changes in air quality and in congestion relief and in quality of life for our people stuck on that damn 91 freeway every day, getting to their work.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, I'm not proposing that real estate wouldn't be utilized. What I'm saying is, we are at a point of paradigm shift. We are really at a point where we can reinvent a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Those spaces now can be engaged differently. Right, we can purpose them for more efficiency, both in revenue generation, in collaboration. It's really fascinating to me. Like, I remember conversations going on a while ago about like the repositioning of malls in general, just across the United States, and that they would make perfect facilities for educational hubs. Yeah. Right. Like you could actually have everything from dormitories. There's already all the infrastructure for food and beverage for in an educational environment, and in places where they're multi-generational. You got older people that are still kind of inquisitive and curious and want to basically go and enhance their skills or get engaged in an encore career of that's a passion pursuit. Those become hubs that are now repurposed for different things. Right. And so I mean, human nature is resistive, right, to change. That's just the nature of human beings. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit, because I know that, given that we've been kind of sharing the same mindset on business and health, right?
Sure.
And given the main function of the Orange County Business Council as a catalyst and a sort of a promoter of what can be done, let's talk about some of the stuff that you guys maybe have in place right now that are to business in general, or maybe the restaurant industry.
Sure. Well, right now, the single focus is how to keep our businesses open that are open now, and how to prepare for reopening, particularly for a restaurant. And you will be my very first. I will share some really good news at the end of this, but I'm hoping you'll let me do a screen share.
Please, yes, please, go ahead.
If that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the coolest things I've been doing is a number of PowerPoint presentations with the Orange County Healthcare Agency.
Okay.
And let's see if I can get it up here. Hang on just a second. I have to hit this one first. Okay, let's see. Are we there? Screen share. Oh.
While you're doing that, Lucy, too, I will say, like there has been a shift, right? We went through this from where we're concerned and worried and not sure what to do, and then everybody hunkers down. And I think some people now are willing to try different things. Right. I don't want to sound pessimistic, like nobody out there is trying to do something different, because even on the restaurant owner and purveyor side, there's a whole range of things that are being done almost like grassroots level and internally motivated,
Absolutely.
and so it's great to see. Like my friend Amar Santana, who owns Vaca and Broadway, they basically took an alleyway in Laguna Beach, and then basically now they're doing al fresco dining, right?
Brilliant.
I mean, and the cities have
Oh my
stepped up.
gosh. And the cities that are doing
Yeah,
are so clever to allow for flexibility in their zoning
right,
and allow those poor restaurants, because so many of them are working on the shoestring, right?
right, yeah,
I'll do this really, really
yeah.
fast.
Go ahead.
The most important thing I want to share, get out your cell phones. If you own a business, any kind of business, or if you are in an office building or a restaurant, retail, whatever, you're gonna want to take a picture of a slide or two here to re-reference. But first, just know I've been doing this with the Orange County Healthcare Agency, and I always start by reminding folks face coverings are the most important thing to keep us open. We've talked about that already, right? Yes, thank you. Here's mine. My mask protects you, your mask protects me. And by the way, a great survey just came out by PPIC. I think the numbers were 78% of Californians say masks should be worn at all times in a public place.
Yeah, I saw you share that the other day.
Yeah. So great information. All right, here's a copy of a slide you should take a photograph of. This is a summary slide, and I'm going to walk through each of these points. If you are open already, you must do this. If you are not yet open, like dine-in restaurants, you must prepare to do this. And I'll have some good news for you restaurants in just a minute. First, find your industry guidance right here on this website. I don't care if you're office or retail or restaurant, your guidance is right here. Look at it, review this stuff. Make sure you're doing it. If there's a checklist with your guidance, post in a public place that checklist. And then you must also post an attestation. This is required by the County of Orange if you are in business in Orange County, and we developed a form for you right here. So this is a good summary slide to take a photograph of. Stay tuned, I have another one here for you. Now, what are you looking for? When I say go find your industry guidance, this is what you're looking for ultimately. If you're retail, it's a 3-page checklist. Do not freak out. You're doing this stuff anyway for the most part, but it's a good way to double check to make sure that you're keeping your employees safe and your workers safe. Because if your customers feel like your employees and your workers are safe, then customers will come back and they'll feel safe as well. So,
and Lucy, not to interrupt you, but that is an absolutely important point to just
very, very important.
Boldly say again. There are a lot of people out there trying to tell people to get over being afraid and scared. Now, whether you think this is a overblown, whether this is people are overreacting to it, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If they are scared, they're scared. And if
they're scared. Exactly right.
If you're a business, you want to get them into your facility by telling them and convincing them and showing them that you're a safe place for them to go.
That's right. And restaurant, here's the restaurant checklist, a 3-page or 2. When you go to visit a restaurant, you should ask where this is, because it's supposed to be right now, whether they're dining in or dining out, they're supposed to be posted in a public place so that you know that they've done all of these things. And last but not least, an example, here's what an office checklist looks like.
Right.
Again, this is common sense. Then on top of posting the checklist, you're supposed to post an attestation saying you did these 5 things. You did a risk assessment, you trained your employees, you've got control measures and screenings for people to double check that they are not infected. You're sanitizing and disinfecting, and you're practicing your physical distancing guidelines. This is what you need to sign as a manager or an owner of your business or restaurant or office space, and post this. So last slide is that summary slide one more time for you to just have. First, here's a place if you want to ask questions. The Orange County Healthcare Agency, they'll actually respond to you if you email eTeam ochca.com. They will respond to questions. People have been asking, well, how high should partitions be between people's stuff? They'll respond. But here's that last slide again. Take a photograph of this one and just do it, people. Just do it. This will really help you stay open if you're open, and keep you open. Now, my good news for you, Raad, for all of your folks, is that working with the Orange County Healthcare Agency and the Orange County Board of Supervisors, 2 weeks ago, the Board of Supervisors approved a program that if restaurants post their checklist, post their attestation, and send me a picture and an application form, we will make sure they get $1,000 from CARES Act funding to pay for masks, sanitization, whatever their screening issues are. You own 10 restaurants in Orange County, you get $10,000.
And it's $1,000 per location.
$1,000 per location. And you're going to have to send me some paperwork because I'm the one that has to check it at OCBC for the County of Orange. But then you get a check, and it's only a 2-month window. So we're hoping it opens next week, and then it ends August, September. It ends at the end of September, and the money has to be spent by December, according to the feds. So, but the good news is the county's allocated $10 million to this program.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's a game changer for anybody who's been struggling for 4 months.
Exactly.
Right, with a couple of locations, don't know how to hold on to them, and the incentive to basically do that. Because when you were sharing the list of the attestation, it's like, well, what kind of appropriate training would there be for my staff? That's when you pick up the phone and you call the number, the 800 number that you shared as well. I mean, there's going to be questions, but
and it's in the guidelines. So the guidelines they'll detail that out for you. But again, it's stuff you've heard over and over again, and it's all about keeping our employees and our customers safe.
Well, and to your point, when you started, you said, you don't freak out, because a lot of this stuff is stuff you're already doing. So all you're doing is you're attesting the fact that you're doing it, and you're on paper saying that. And again, at the end of the day, it's about giving comfort to the people that are going to come into your business. I mean, there's another layer to this that we haven't really kind of discussed a lot as a community, is we have a lot of people that are unemployed. There are people that are literally unemployed. So your discretionary spending, if you're a business owner and you basically have some brick and mortar and you depend on people walking in and spending money, the amount of discretionary spending out there currently has now been reduced. So you have to go that extra step to assure the people that may want to come and spend money with you that it's a safe place for them to do so. So be aware, everybody who's listening, be aware that this program is available. Thank you, Lucy, for sharing that. And that it is a big deal.
To hear it. You're the first one.
I love it.
Public. So you got the exclusive here. County will do a big rollout. I know, because they've hired a marketing firm, but I love being able to share it with you because of our partnership in getting the good health is good business words out. So
right. I tell people they hear all kinds of stuff on the Raad Life, but here it goes. You heard it here first. Lucy, so okay, let's kind of dial it back down to you.
Sure.
Okay, so obviously you enjoy what you do, and you I don't see you stopping doing what you're doing because you enjoy it too much. I can tell, right? What do you do? How do you keep, because it requires a lot of energy, right? I mean, and dedication, and especially when something like this, it's not a 9 to 5. I mean, you're engaged in this. This is who you are. It's part of your DNA, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you recharge? For those people out there that are feeling overwhelmed right now, and how do you recharge? What do you do, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. In fact, I think it's such a brilliant question. This would be a lot easier to say when it was pre-COVID, because I always shared this information for folks to recognize that people are healthier with a balanced life. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of us that are single focused. There's experts in the field. In fact, I was teased by a boss very early in life. He said, all the men on my board, that was interesting. Just that comment right there. I was the only woman on the board of directors. All the men, they're all A players because they're singly focused on their job, and this is what they do. You are different, Lucy. You have outside interests. I go, I know, and I'm more interesting. So the things I did before before COVID, and then we'll talk about how
Yeah.
it's harder now.
Yeah.
Folks don't realize, but a lot of folks now know, but in my secret life, I started singing at a late age in life. And I did my first, after my two babies were born, I was sitting in church one day and said, I got to get out of the house one night a week. This is just one night.
I need a break.
What would not annoy my husband? And at that moment, the church choir was singing, and I thought, I think I'll check it out. I had never sung in high school or college. I played a little bit piano, not according to my teacher, but I do play a little piano.
I think we had the same teacher.
Same teacher, right? And so I walked up to the choir loft, and he says, well, what part do you sing? And I go, I don't know. He says, well, he put me over there. And it was one of those funny things where I happened to sit next to someone who was really quite good. And what was I thinking? That was such the dumbest move ever. But the woman who sat next to me said, just keep coming back, keep coming back. And so I'm I guess I was 30, and then ultimately ended up joining a group at Cypress College, community college. I ended up taking my first voice lesson at age 40, traveling to Europe. I've performed everywhere from the Vatican to Carnegie Hall to Sydney Opera House, and
oh, great! That's
and
awesome.
Everywhere in between. And what I love about it, Raad, is that it's one thing when you give a public talk or a speech, you can always correct a word or a phrase, and the work that we do, it's very long to goal, right? We're doing stuff over years and policy changes.
Right.
Music and singing, you instantly know whether it was successful or not, because they're either going to applaud and smile or be very polite and go, thank you, honey, next act, please, right? So it's it helps you, and it helps you also think quick on your feet.
Yeah.
And it gives joy to people. And so I still, now with music as being super spreaders, especially choral music, the two choral groups, one is a professional group that, I sang with Pacific Chorale for a short time. This schedule was just a little too hard on me with OCBC, but great. I mean, my gosh, to be able to sing with professionals, that just ups your game. And it also realized that I shouldn't be embarrassed about being an amateur, that I could work with them. I was awesome. I love that. But I sang with two choral groups, one Meritage out of Anaheim, and another a professional group, Meister Singers out of the city of Orange. We've done some virtual choir work, but not enough yet, where you have Zoom boxes and everyone singing. And then on the weekends, I'll still very safely distanced outdoor services. I'll still sing an occasional church service away from people. So I'm behind a plexiglass with a microphone, and folks are away, and mask up in between, segments of church. That kind of helps a bit balance, but it's really hard now. In fact, I'll tell you, there's 14 of us on just a text messaging, 14 singers, that we all just miss each other, and we miss singing, and we text each other all during the day, just to stay in touch. So that's the hard part, because the downside of Zoom, you can do 5 Zoom meetings in a row and lose your mind, right? And not even have a bathroom break.
No, easily.
And you can also not take a break. So the other thing I've tried to do is remember to exercise every day, which for me, I hate exercise. All my life, I've had a weight problem that I have to manage. I've gained and lost 2 Chevys in my lifetime. I just lost my second Chevy, and I'm trying not to.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. But trying to keep that exercise up, which helps keep your mental stimulation as well. Mind and body is really important, and trying to learn new things. Even at my age, I'm learning new stuff every day, right? That's the beauty of life, right?
I mean, dare I say good health is good business?
Absolutely. Good health is good business. Yeah. And good health, good physical health is good mental health.
No, I mean, I think that is a part of, and it's very easy. They talk about the quarantine 15 and all that stuff, right? It's super easy to fall into that, really easy. And and your emotional mindset right now, not only for yourself but everybody around you. And I think this is the thing that when we're feeling really down, I think we need to remind ourselves that there's other people around us that are impacted by what we do.
Right.
And so when you take care of, yesterday I interviewed a lady by the name of Dr. Dina Brown. I'm not sure if you know her. She said something to me. I've always, and you've always heard this, that, your cup is full, make sure your cup is full, right? Okay.
Yes.
She said something to me that was interesting. She said that in order to give to other people, you have to give from the overspill of your cup.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not enough to have your cup full. That's almost like the starting point. If you want to give to others, you have to give from the overspill. You have to make sure there's more in your cup. It's similar to about a few months ago when I heard, I've said forever, leave things better than you found them. And then I saw somebody say, leave someone better than you found them. And all of a sudden that whole terminology took on a different dimension.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Raad. I so love that. One of the things that every speaking engagement I do, I either begin or end with this, is in a pandemic especially, we need to be able to say, when this is all over, how did we help someone?
Absolutely.
How did we, and we have to be able to tell our story, and others should tell our story for us. And I love that my cup is
you have to have your cup full enough.
It has to be overflowing to do that, right?
My mindset from an aesthetic kind of profession, it's I cannot shake this image in my head when you have a tiered water fountain.
Yes.
Right. You have to have in order for that water fountain to work, the water has to overflow the bowls.
Yes.
It's not enough to fill the bowls. You have to actually overflow the bowls in order for that sound, for that visual to happen. So when she said that to me, it was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I've said, make sure your cup is full, make sure your cup is full. You need to make sure your cup is overflowing in order to be there for people. And you said something just now, which I think is important to point out. A lot of people, and it's understandable, especially at the beginning, we were thinking that this is something that's in passing. This is passing. This is a weekend. This is 10 days, this is an inconvenience that's happening. We are now at month 4 or month 5, depending on how you count it. This is part of our story.
Right.
So how are you going to write this chapter of your story, which is titled COVID, and then fill in the rest of it? And are you going to be able to say that you left somebody better than you found them? You left a situation better than you found it? And so I appreciate you, Lucy, very much taking the time. You've been very generous with it today, and you and I could talk forever. But I
know we should do this again.
We should do this again. You are invited at any time to do this. I really, really appreciate my friend being here and sharing so generously. I wish you a great day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, and don't forget tailor-made face masks. They're beautiful and stylish.
You are adorable. Thank you. You know what? Okay. Since you did that, I'm gonna throw this in, right? Anybody who basically uses Lucy as a promo code, okay, when you order from Tailor Made Face Mask, okay, you are gonna have an added bonus discount on your thing, or you can get a monogram because you got a monogram on your face mask.
I have a monogram on mine. It's beautiful.
We will monogram your initials for free, but make sure to use Lucy, Lucy, as your promo code.
Yay! See, we helped somebody today. We just
absolutely. Thank you, my friend. You have a great rest of the day.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye. It was a real pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.